The Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster, led by Minister Mmamoloko Kubayi, today conducting a community outreach program in Mthatha in the Eastern Cape. It aims to address concerns around crime and safety. Let's take you live to Newzroom Afrika's Liyema Vumisa. Liyema, we know that issues of crime and safety are rife in particular areas of the province. You were just in conversation with the minister. What did she have to say?
Certainly, Michelle, well, a bit of many revelations that came from the Justice and Constitutional Development Minister, but at the heart of everything, she maintains that they are well on track as the department to ensure that the turnaround strategy, particularly that concerns to the convictions of certain individuals and cases, are fast-tracked. Meanwhile, the acting police minister that we also spoke to, Professor Kachalia, also mentioning that, be that as it may, they do concede that there are some of South African police members that are a bit tainted when it comes to some of the cases themselves that pertain to certain sexual offences or even organised crime. But that will come just a little bit later on. But for now, though, I'm joined by the Director General of the Civilian Secretariat here in the South African Police Service, just to walk around, or rather to walk us around in terms of what actually is done, particularly when it concerns sexual offences. Thanks very much, DG, for joining us. Let's start really there. When we talk about sexual offences, particularly here in the Eastern Cape, the numbers are staggering and they're concerning. But for the South African police, how do you counteract that, and how do you sort of accommodate the victims themselves?
No, thank you very much. We think, or we believe that the offences in relation to GBV cannot be sorted out by police themselves alone. Hence, government approved an integrated crime and violence prevention strategy, which enjoins all the department and society to work together in the fight against GBV and F. What you will have seen is that we had, from yesterday, visited a vulnerable school, Plaatje School, where we had an engagement. But it became very apparent in that engagement that we need to start from the family units at home. Look, the economic situations at home, the vulnerability of children and how children are being brought out at home. So it becomes a societal matter. But as government, we need to strengthen as well our intervention, which we have then designed implementing or which we have then started implementing the integrated and violence prevention strategy, strengthening our domestic violence units, ensuring that social development is in play to make sure that they respond to the social ills that exist in communities. But we must strengthen the school systems as well in terms of management, so that we don't have kids roaming around in times when they were not supposed to be roaming around. Of concern to us is the proliferation of the taverns in the schools that we have visited, which makes kids more vulnerable in terms of the abuse of substance, liquor, as well as drugs. In that school that we have visited, we have realized, we have counted up to 5 taverns that are in the proximity of the school itself and the various schools. We therefore had an engagement with the liquor board, and we have asked them to review the regulation and become more stricter in terms of the enforcement of the regulation in relation to liquor license. Put bluntly, we think certain taverns in that particular school has to be closed. And I don't think there must be room for negotiations in relation to those particular taverns, because they are just in the vicinity of the schools, non-compliant with the license regulations and the license legislations.
And it's certainly a worrisome situation, but I wonder then, how did it even lead to that point? How would have they, gotten that liquor license, knowing very well that it is going to be stationed within the proximity of certain schools?
Look, we have received various explanations from the liquor board itself. Some of the explanations was that when the license is issued, there is community participation, and there was no objections from the community for the license to be granted. The other explanation is that it may be that the school came later than the tavern, but we then, our overall view is that irrespective of what explanations are there, these licenses have to be reviewed, because we can't move the school out of the areas where they are in, because the school is a societal developmental institution. A tavern destroyed the moral of the society. So therefore, we think we cannot play around in relation to that. They have to review those licenses. And I'm happy that the ministers this morning have given even that direction to say something has to be done by today to make sure that those licenses are being reviewed. We had found that the police have even issued penalties and notices of non-compliance, but the liquor board has not processed those type of penalties. And we are saying that they must review those files and start visiting those penalties so that we have a safe environment where children are able to learn. But we also are worried about the involvement of the community in the destruction of those properties, especially the destruction of the infrastructure in the school itself. And we are calling all the communities to protect the infrastructure in the schools, to make sure that the desks, the computers, and everything else that is in the school is protected. We don't find any sense in communities stealing desks where children must use to study. But more importantly, it's stealing computers in those various schools, especially in schools that are found in rural areas, which the resources are very scarce and so forth. But we're very happy that the Department of Correctional Services has now undertaken to make sure that all the desks that have been vandalized, the furniture that has been vandalized, they will use the inmate program to make sure that those desks are restored to their usable condition.
Yeah, but one person would argue, Mr. Sibuye, that the reason for that vandalization that occurs at schools and even in other, societal sectors would be as a result of the public outcry because of the scarcity of, the service delivery issues and concerns of them being raised, particularly from the SAPS, where safety and crime is concerned.
Look, there is no justification for vandalizing schools. There is no reason why other economic challenges must justify us to go and vandalize schools. In actual fact, a school must be used as an instrument towards the development of society, both economically and socially. We acknowledge that there may be challenges in relation to service delivery. Hence, this program includes everybody from local government, provincial government, as well as national government, to make sure that we put together the resources to improve on social, on service delivery issues. Police as well are dependent on other departments to make sure that there is effective policing in the area. We're dependent on local government to make sure that the roads are fine, the streets are lit, the parks are cleaned, and everything else, so that this policing is effective.
Collaboration is sought. Thank you very much, Director General of Civilian Secretariat for the South African Police Services. Of course, mentioning that they need collaboration amongst the various stakeholders to ensure that effective policing is in fact, enforced, Michelle. But other than that, the acting police minister also mentioning that organized crime seems to be an issue that came up in the briefing that they had earlier this morning. Now, you'd understand then that ties to the Madlanga Commission that has entered its day two today, Michelle, which I believe we are going to be taking you to it right now.